morning, you guys. I thought I would come and give you a quick update on what's going on with my bladder and the interstitial cystitis / painful bladder syndrome that I have been diagnosed with, because I found it really interesting. I had an appointment. I finally got my appointment. A quick history: I have been diagnosed for years with overactive bladder. I didn't think that was right. I thought I had interstitial cystitis, but they had told me it was not that. But in, I think it was January this year. No, actually it was last year. I think I had the urodynamics study, which was very painful. I then did bladder installations. And when I had the urodynamics study, the lady doing it said, I think you've got interstitial cystitis, not overactive bladder. And she really drilled down on the questions with me. You know, what happens when you need the toilet? And I was like, I'm in pain. She's like, but do you not feel like you're going to wee yourself? No, I don't. I absolutely don't. And she says, well, that's, the urodynamics study showed that there wasn't a single drop of leakage. I'm able to hold a full bladder. It's just agony when I do. So I did the bladder installations in January, but stopped them in January because they weren't doing anything. I think I did quite a few weeks, maybe 8 weeks. I did most of them at home and they made no difference at all. So then I was just waiting for another appointment, which apparently was due in May, but of course there was lockdown. So I had phoned up to chase it recently and got sent an appointment. I wasn't really sure what I was going to achieve from this appointment, if anything. You know, I thought, because the last time I saw, oops, just pulled my earring out. The last time I saw my doctor, do you know how funny it is that for every urology appointment I've had 3 different consultants and they've all been Greek. But the last time I saw this Greek guy, he just said there's nothing else we can do other than this surgery that is a fixed, a rigid cystoscopy to find out exactly what's going on. And I was like, okay, so I wasn't expecting much from this appointment, but I wanted to ask her about long-term antibiotics, long-term low-level antibiotics, because there is a theory that some people have that there is no such thing as interstitial cystitis, and what it is a chronic UTI that has got into your bladder wall. Now, during lockdown, I think it might have been just after lockdown, I had an appointment where I actually asked if I could have a bladder culture, a urine culture done to check for bladder wall infection. I had that done and it came back negative. But I wanted to ask and see what this consultant thought. She was absolutely against it. And she said, no. She said, these theories, what happens is the antibiotics can make the bladder more sensitive. So, you know, she wasn't going to do it. It was always in my head that was an option to go privately and see, you know, what other options there were. But let's see what she's going to offer me. But she said that we're starting from the beginning again now. She said, because you're now diagnosed with interstitial cystitis, this is your official diagnosis day, if you like, that I am writing to your GP and saying this is what she has. And I was like, oh, okay. So she says there are now quite a few options. The number one is called Elmiron, and it's a tablet. And she said, I'll prescribe that for you today. You can start taking it and that should help you, but it won't help you until like 3 months plus. You see a difference between 3 to 6 months. So I said yes, thinking, you know, I'll go and research this myself later. I said to her, are there any side effects? And she said to me that hair loss is a very common one. And I was a bit horrified by that. But like I said, I'm always going to take the information and go and have a look at it later. So I took the prescription for Elmiron. And she said, the next thing I want to do is to do surgery. She said, I want to do it. It's under general anaesthetic. It's called I had to write it in my notes. So I keep saying distension, but it wasn't actually called that. Hydra, oh no, it was Hydra Distension, but it's a rigid cystoscopy. So they put a tube up your urethra, but it's a rigid one rather than a flexible soft one. They then expand your bladder and see if the walls split, which they're expected to with interstitial cystitis. They put some sort of solution in there and they're basically stretching it. They're stretching the capacity. And it also helps them kind of pinpoint exactly what's wrong, what part of the bladder is not working, what part of the urethra. And I said to her, but I'm really nervous about that, you know, because I've had a flexible cystoscopy and it was agony. And she was like, oh, well, you know, we'll be using anaesthetic and you might find some relief from this. So again, I just sort of thought, you know what, I'll investigate it. Because this was the first time I'd seen this Greek lady and she was really, it felt very rushed. So I agreed and said to her, you know, how quickly is the surgery? When does it happen? She said, no idea. So I said yes. I told her that since being on HRT, things are a little bit better. So certainly at night they're a little bit better. And one of the other things she'd asked me if I'd had was physio bladder retraining, which I have. And so I said yes to that. And then she said, the final option that we can give you is Botox in your bladder. And I said to her, well, is that still an option if I'm having Botox for migraines? And she said yes, because the total amount, she said the amount for migraines is very small, but the amount for the bladder is a lot. But overall, it's still an acceptable amount. And I was like, okay, I thought, how funny, I'm going to be full of Botox from head to toe, you know. So I went home and did my own investigations on everything. And I was pretty horrified by the results because, firstly, the drug, Elmiron, I didn't find anybody that hadn't experienced hair loss. And there isn't that much information about experiences, but most of the women that had used this drug had experienced hair loss, quite significant hair loss. But also there's nausea, etc., etc. So for me, there's a big question mark over this drug, and I haven't got my prescription yet. I was only there at the hospital just over a week ago. I dropped it into my GP, and now it's going to take forever for the chemist to text me. It normally takes 1 to 2 weeks for them to text me to say that the prescription's in, and so I've got time. But I don't think I'm going to take that, to be honest with you, because what I need to find out, let me know if any of you guys have tried Elmiron, is whether or not the hair loss is permanent or whether the hair comes back. You know, to have permanent hair loss would be, I've got enough issues with aging and, you know, with self-esteem and appearance that I don't need to add hair loss. My hair is something that I've always had. Still got my thick hair. You know, I worry about thinning hair as it is because my mum's got thinning hair. Hair loss is just a deal breaker for me. But I want to find out, does the hair grow back? Is it just a short-term thing while you're on the drug and then it comes back? Or is that permanent? Secondly, with the surgery, and funny enough, me telling you all this reminds me of the video I did saying that I always take the doctor's advice. And I thought, now I'm actually going the way that that person was saying. Like I'm saying, well, I'm not going to take that drug and I'm not going to have that surgery, you know. But when I looked up the surgery, the rigid cystoscopy and the Hydra distension, again, everybody I read about, it's made their symptoms worse and they've been in agony afterwards. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. I did find a couple of people who had helped. But here's the thing, if it helps, you need to have it done between 3 and 9 months, every 3 to 9 months, under general anaesthetic. That's not a risk I'm prepared to take. And I think if I was in as much pain as I was 15 years ago when I first got this, or even 10 years ago when it was still pretty bad, I probably would take the risk of these things. But at the moment, I'm not in pain with my bladder most of the time because I'm at home and I have access to a bathroom. I'm in pain when we go for a dog walk. We'll leave the house, I'll make sure I go for a pee. Halfway there, we're on the motorway, half an hour later, and I'm like, that's it, I need to eat. And I need to get Kev to stop at the side of the road. And it's pretty embarrassing, I suppose you would say. I hate it. You know, I hate having to find somewhere and worry in case somebody's going to see me. But it's like instantly I need to go, and it's agony. It's really, really painful, which they've explained is, you know, an oversensitive bladder. But apart from that, once I go, I'm fine. I'm not in pain afterwards, which a lot of IC patients are in pain after they go to the bathroom. I'm not, and I have a little a spray that I've got instead of lidocaine that is like a painkiller, if you like. And so there's not really, I don't feel like I'm bad enough to need to go through something so risky. So I think when I get the letter to say that I'm going to get the surgery, what I'm going to do is write to them and say that the HRT is still helping, and so I'd prefer to hold off on the surgery, if you like, but not be discharged from urology. The problem is they like to discharge you unless you're moving forward with something, you know. But even the Botox, it may be that they do that under general anaesthetic, and if it helped, you need to have it done regularly. So I decided that the bladder is not, it's more of an inconvenience, and there are occasions when it's painful when there are no toilets available. But those are few and far between because I'm at home most of the time, or out and about near toilets. And I thought I would also give the bladder retraining a go because it did somewhat work for me in the past. And all bladder retraining is when I need to go is to just try and wait an extra 5 minutes, or even an extra minute. You can build it up from however long you want, you know, but obviously because I'm in pain, it is difficult, but I can do it while I'm at home because the toilet's right there. So whenever the pain gets too much, I can go. So I've been doing that, and I have to say it's been pretty impressive because I've now had 4 nights where I've slept all the way through and haven't got up once in the night to go for a pee. And I think even getting up once in the night is not that unusual at this age. How it's worked in the day, I don't know, because I've only been doing it for 4 or 5 days. I won't know until we next go for a big dog walk, or saying that, we did go for a walk on Saturday and I wasn't too bad at all, but I didn't have anything to drink in the morning, so I don't know. But anyway, that's what I'm doing so that I can hopefully avoid surgery, avoid these drugs, and just manage it myself. But those options are there if ever things get worse. Because, for example, I don't know what would happen if I stopped the HRT. Maybe things would go back to being worse at night, because at night time I was literally going to bed, just about to fall asleep, and I'd need a wee. I'd get up and go back to bed, just about to fall asleep, I'd need a wee. That would happen 6 or 7 times, and it's infuriating and it makes you so tired. But that isn't happening as much now. It's like maybe I get up twice after I've gone to bed. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking because, as I said in my headache video, I'm trying to avoid too much videoing and too much editing, etc. But that's what's happening with the bladder at the moment. And so if you've got any of these symptoms, overactive bladder or painful bladder syndrome, hopefully this will be informative to you. Let me know what your story is. I don't know that I've heard from that many people with bladder issues, and so I'd love to know what you know, where you're at. If you've got really bad pain and you want a pain relieving spray, please leave me a comment and I will get in touch with you and let you know how I make this spray up that you can spray down there. And it is just such a pain reliever that I used all day, every day, back when it was really, really bad and I, you know, struggled to work, etc. So, yeah, I wish you guys all the best and I will speak to you again soon.